to other duties as assigned. I'm excited for this third part of our kind of introduction to new administrators as they start their new year and try to give some insights. I've met with an administrator at the high school and the middle school levels, and then I reached out to my good friend, Colleen Perry, who's a principal here at Guilford Elementary in Plainfield, and I asked her if she would join me, and she agreed to it. So this will be our third episode as we kind of wrap up some introductions to new administrators. So Colleen, can you tell the audience a little bit about kind of your educational path and how you've come to this role here in Plainfield?
Yes. Well, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I was very excited. So I was trying to think this year. I think it's my 25th year as an educator. I think I'm going into my 26th year as an educator. And I started my career in Wayne Township. I student taught in Wayne Township, and then became a teacher there and an administrator there. And then we built a house out here in Plainfield. That's where my kids started to go to school. And so I ended up taking an administrative position here just so I could kind of align with my kids' schedule a little bit more. But my background, I think that's probably been the most useful as an administrator, is I went to like 11 different schools, K-12. So as a student. And so when I think back, I know we're talking about administration, that probably the experiences that I had, they were both public and private, and always good reasons to move, just enough to go to maybe a different school. But I just think about some of those, life skills that you learn being a new student, often in a new school, in a different setting. And so that's kind of
that variety of experience kind of got you ready to do this.
Yeah.
So you're a classroom teacher. What grade did you teach?
So I started in 4th grade, taught 4 years in 4th grade, and then I went down to teach 1st grade, did 3 years in 1st grade, and then looped up and did 2nd grade, and did student teaching in kindergarten.
So variety of elementary
yes,
settings.
Yes.
And so then you made the decision to leap into administration in Wayne. So how did you come to that decision? How did you decide that was the move to make?
So to be honest, I don't think when I was teaching that I ever envisioned myself being an administrator. I did love teaching, and I still love it. I had no aspirations to leave the classroom. I loved what I did. I did notice, there were a lot of teachers that would come into my room and say, hey, Colleen, can you come and help me figure out this technology? Or, hey, can we plan an idea together? And I loved working with teachers. And so if they would ask me to, show them something on technology, I would end up clearing my schedule at the end of the day and get really excited about figuring something out. And so honestly, it was really people tapping me on the shoulder, like, hey, could you help us with this project? Or would you be interested in this? And I think what I figured out is I loved teaching kids, but I really also loved working with adults as well. And so I had a principal who just started tapping me on the shoulder for, hey, can you help me analyze iStep back then? Can you help me organize some things? Could you present at a meeting? And started to become more comfortable getting up in front of adults. And I had a principal that said she had gone to Butler for her admin. She thought I would really love the program. I still didn't think I wanted to be an administrator, but I went ahead and just kind of took a leap, went and applied, ended up loving the program. And then right after I left, had an internship that was available, and kind of that's where it started. So
we're both Butler EPPSP graduates, and I think that's been a common theme that I've heard. Everybody I've talked to of just they loved being in the classroom, loved teaching kids, working with kids. That was a big part, but just felt themselves developing as a teacher leader and leading their peers and their colleagues, and enjoying that so much that it was a natural transition. I was the same way. Yeah. Other people that I've talked to have said those same things, and I think that's something to aspiring administrators who may be listening is don't rush to get out of the classroom. We gain so much experience, so many things that we can draw on when we're doing observations, when we're helping teachers deal with tough kids and tough parents and tough situations, of being able to rely back on your experience. Having those years in the classroom, Colleen and I both look very young. Looks like it's only our third year teaching,
true.
right?
That's true.
But I think that experience really helps us and helps
Absolutely.
us have to be grounded and to be able to kind of rely on that history that we have to be successful. And I think that being a teacher leader first is an easy way for an aspiring administrator to kind of start to dip their toe and to show the folks and their building and their district that they're ready for those kind of challenges and to step up. And I think that's it's an easy way to do that even really naturally. So we're making lots of good connections there. So as you transitioned, you're in the classroom, you're becoming an administrator, or maybe making the leap from being an assistant principal to being a principal. What have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in terms of obstacles and things, things that a first year administrator or a young administrator might learn from?
That's a good question as well. I think the biggest thing for me is there was a lot of time, I think even when I was a teacher, that I really felt like administration was separate from teachers. So it became our administrators are asking us to do something and we're going to do it because our administrator says that we need to do that. And I never felt that way. I always, I knew once I went into administration, I didn't know all of the answers. And I think there's this misunderstanding that you want to step into being an administrator when you have all of the answers, and you realize you're never going to have all of the answers. And so I think the biggest hurdle is getting teachers to buy in and believe that you're actually their biggest cheerleader, you're their biggest fan, and you want to help them succeed. To me, my teachers are no different than my kids in my classroom. They're all at varying levels. They all have different strengths and different weaknesses, and my job is to help them find and build on those strengths. But I do think it can be difficult if teachers don't believe that or understand that you can actually work very closely with your administrator and everyone benefits from that. So that's the biggest hurdle, I think, is just building that trust with a staff that you're not there for any other reason than to help support them in doing this really hard job of teaching.
And you had a different experience than I had in that when you came to Plainfield, you were new to the staff. When I became an administrator, it was with a staff that I had been teaching with, so I already had a lot of those relationships, which is its own kind of obstacle sometimes. But having to build those relationships and make those investments so that when you come in to observe, or you come to help, a teacher comes to you with a problem, they know you've got their back, and you know that you're working together to come to a resolution. I think that's really good. When we think about new administrators, are there any advice you would give a new administrator, somebody who's, maybe we were just talking, I hate to date the podcast, but we're talking just before Labor Day. I mentioned that Labor Day is my favorite holiday because I finally can take a breath after the start of the year, right? That new administrator is finally exhaling. What's the piece of advice that might help them get through this first semester or their first semester successfully?
I think just going into it as a team, right? And, working with your teachers to make all decisions, right? I mean, there's non-negotiable things that come in education that, sometimes you have to be that person to say, no, that's not the direction that we're going. But for the most part, the decisions that are made, if you can just realize, you don't have all of the answers, but typically if you can pull the right people in, you can figure out the answers together. So for me, everything is pulling, just like administrators tapped me on the shoulder, I have to find which teachers can I tap on the shoulder, because I can't do this job by myself, just like teachers can't do their jobs by themselves. So I think getting through any tough situation is bringing your teachers in alongside to, have their input on what's going well, what's not going well, how can we fix it, and kind of coming to that consensus as a school. You're really just a facilitator. I mean, just the same way we tell teachers to be a facilitator in the classroom. I mean, just be a facilitator and pull your people in, and you can solve any problem.
It's funny you talk about that. It reminds me, we both have Wayne Township roots. I started teaching at Ben Davis High School, and I got the opportunity to work with Hall of Fame coach Dick Delahan. And Coach Delahan used to say his job as the head coach, which is kind of like being an administrator. Head coach his job was to coach the coaches. The coaches coach the players, and he coaches the coaches. And I think some of the times that's kind of what our job as administrator. Our job is to coach the teachers, is to help the teachers, to kind of to guide them and treat them because you're on a team, you're working together and trying to help them kind of figure out what's the best solution to a lot of problems, and helping to listen to their voices. Because a lot of times, every day we're not in the classroom, there is some disconnect a little bit sometimes, and you have to try to close that as best you can. But teachers are in the trenches, and they're going to be able to bring to you the best ideas sometimes, or problems you don't even know are there. And so hearing from teachers and having open doors and being able to have those conversations is really important. Well, Colleen, I really appreciate you sitting down and talking with me and sharing your wisdom and your experience. But I'm glad that for all of our viewers and listeners that had a chance to hear this 3-part series, we're going to continue to delve into a little bit more depth, even though these are short format, but delve into a little more depth in different topics throughout the season. And until next time, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.